Hi, Mace here. On this episode, we're going to look at cooking a pumpkin, as we're going to use it as an ingredient in a lot of other recipes, and was already used in the pumpkin pie recipe. Okay, we're just going to start with cutting the pumpkin in half. Now, I only have my 8-inch knife here, which is a lot smaller than my 10-inch one, and it makes it quite a bit more difficult. One of the things you can do is you can pick up the pumpkin and slam it with the knife, and it can kind of start to go through that way. But what I'm doing is I'm really just taking my time and trying to kind of wobble the blade in so that it can kind of go through. It can be pretty tricky the first couple cuts on a pumpkin. It's awkward to hold, it's round, and you need a lot of strength to get through it. So if you have a longer knife, one that's longer than the pumpkin is wide, it's a lot easier because then you can kind of push down on both sides. But when you only go on one, it's kind of tricky. So sometimes you might want to do a cut halfway through with one way or one side, and then flip the pumpkin around and start cutting from the other side, and then kind of going back and forth, and you can eventually somehow saw through the thing. But once you have the first couple cuts done, it becomes significantly more manageable. Now that our pumpkin is torn asunder in pieces that are much more manageable, we can start getting the seeds out. Now I'm using an ice cream scoop. You can use a spoon, but if you have a nice ice cream scoop, they're a lot thicker and they're less likely to bend because you might need to put some serious force on here, taking them apart. And some of these pieces, they were just way too big, so I had to cut them in half to be able to hold them in my hand nice and comfortably, and it works out pretty good that way. You're just kind of scraping from the top to the bottom, just trying to get rid of all the mess of all the seeds and the stringy bits that are connected to them. And you can get so far going one direction, then flip the thing in your hand, start going the other way, and you can usually get it all out fairly quick that way. Then once you're done getting all the seeds out, you put them all on the pan, space them all out nice and evenly, and then cover with oil. You could use salt and pepper here, but because we're going to be using this in baking later, we want to control that at that point in time. We don't want to commit to anything early on, because that could be kind of problematic if you're cooking something that you really don't need pepper in it. Like, you don't need pepper in your pumpkin pie, but depending on what you're making, maybe you're making a soup, and your pumpkin soup, it's great having pepper in it. So that's why it's a good idea to kind of go easy on the spicing as far. That's why we just do the olive oil or avocado oil or whatever kind of oil you want to use. Okay, I got the pumpkin in the oven, 325 degrees, gonna cook it about half an hour. And then see how it looks after that. And this is what it looks like when it's done. I think I had to cook it another 15 minutes or so after that, but anyway, wait till it cools off before trying to separate the flesh from the skin. And the technique I'm using here is I'm using a fork. You can use a knife, you can use a spoon, doesn't really matter. You just want to follow the contour of the skin in between the flesh, and it will all separate generally pretty easily. And you don't really run into too much tear out where the flesh sticks to the skin and you really have to really pull it apart to separate it. And then once we're done with that, I got it in a nice bowl here, and I'm just going to mash it. Mashing is the more laborly intense way to make this stuff. The other way to do it is just run it through your food processor, and that's the quick and easy method. But this actually requires less cleanup, even though I knocked some of this out of the bowl and it made a little bit of a mess. But the cleanup on this is quite a bit easier, and it's not too bad to mash it. And once we have a nice consistency, that's kind of the end of this pumpkin section in preparing your pumpkin for all your pumpkin recipes, be it your pumpkin pie, your pumpkin cake, your pumpkin muffins, your pumpkin whatever you want, pumpkin soup. Had a little bit of a teaser at the start of this video. That was my pumpkin cake, and I'll be putting that video up soon. Till next time, like, comment, and subscribe, and stay awesome.